Vandaya Yedananta
Ye Shansa Esha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Sarvatmana Shrita Paduyadi Nirvyalikam
Sarvatmana Shrita Yadi Nirvalikam
Te Dushtaram Atitaranti Chadeva Mayam
Idushtaram Atitaram Tichadeva Mayam
Naishamamahamiti Disvariga Srigala Bakshi
Naishama Mahamiti Swasrigala Bhakshe
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Sarvatmana Shrita Paduyadi Nirvyalikam
Sarvatmana
Shrita Padoyadi Nirvyalikam
Te Dushtaram Atitaranti Chadeva Mayam
Te Dustaram Atitaranti Chadeva Mayam
Naishamamahamiti Disvariga Bakshi
Naishama
Mahamiti Swashrigala Bhakshe
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Sarvatmana Shrita Paduyadi Nirvyalikam
Sarvatmana Shrita Padoyadi Nirvyalikam
Te Dushtaram Atitaranti Chadeva Mayam
Te Dustaram Atitaranti Chadeva Mayam
Naishamamahamiti Disvashrigala Bakshi
Naishama Mahamiti Swashrigala Bhakshe.
Would anyone else like to sing, chant?
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Yesham
Saesha
Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Sarvatmana Shrita Padoyadi Nirvyalikam
Sarvatmana Shrita Yadi Nirvyalikam
Te Dustaram Atitaranti Chadeva Mayam
Te Dustaramaticaranti Chadeva Mayam
Naisham Mahamiti Swashrigala Bhakshe
Naisama Mahamiti Swashigala Bhakshe Ye Samsa Esha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Sarvatmana Shrita Paduyadi Nirvyalikam
Sarvatmani Shrita Padoyadi Nirvyalikam
Te Dushtaramatitanti Chaya Deva Mayam
Te Dustaram Atitaranti Chadeva Mayam
Naishama Mahamiti Swashingala Vakshe
Naisham Mahamiti Swashrigala Bhakshe
Esham sa esha bhagavandaya yedananta
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta
Sarvat manasvita pato yadi nirvyalikam
Sarvatmana Shrita Paduyadi Nirvyalikam
Etustaram Atitaranti cha deva mayam.
Dushtaram atitaranti jadeva mayam.
Aisham mamahamiti di svashri gala pakshe.
Asham mamahamiti vishvarikala bakshi.
Yesham sa esha bhagavantaya yedananta.
Yesham saesha bhagavandaya vedananta.
Sarvatmana shritas adoya dinirvyalikam.
Sarvamanaśritapadoya diniryalikam.
Edustaram atitaranti chadeva mayam.
Devushtaram atitaranti jadeva mayam.
Aisham mama hamiti svasvikala vakshe.
Aisham mamahamiti.
Tidishvarikala bakshi.
Yesham Saesha Bhagavandaya Yedananta.
Yesham
Saesha bhagavandaya vedananta.
Sarvatmana Shritapadoya Nirvyalikam.
Sarvamanaśritapadoya diniryalikam.
Ekishtaramatitanti chadeva mayam.
Devushtaram atitaranti jadeva mayam.
Aisham mamavami asvikara vakshe.
Aisham mamahamiti.
Yesham,
Isham.
unto those,
Unto those,
unto those only.
unto those only.
Sa,
Sa,
the Lord.
The Lord.
Isha,
Yesha.
the
The
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan,
the personality of Godhead.
the personality of Godhead,
Dayayit,
Dayayit,
thus bestow His mercy.
thus bestow His mercy.
Ananta,
Ananta,
the unlimited potential.
the unlimited potential.
Sarva Atmana,
Sarva Atmana,
By
by all means without reservation.
all means without reservation.
Ashritapada,
Ashritabhada.
surrendered soul.
Surrendered soul.
Yadi,
Yadi.
if such surrender.
If such surrender.
Nirvyalikam,
Nirvyalikam.
without pretension.
without
Without
pretension.
pretension.
Te,
Te.
those only.
Those only.
Tustaram,
Dustaram.
insurmountable.
Insurmountable.
Atitaranti,
Atitaranti,
can overcome.
And overcome.
Cha,
Cha.
and the paraphernalia.
and the paraphernalia,
Devamayam,
Devamayam,
diverse energies of the Lord.
diverse energies of the Lord.
Na,
Na.
No,
not.
not
Esham,
Isham.
Isham.
We're
Observe.
you're not hearing me?
no, yeah, it cut out for a moment, but we can hear you again.
Did you say Mama? According to our what we have heard, we will be at Mama.
Okay, Mama,
Mama,
Mine.
mine,
Aham,
Aham.
Aham,
myself,
myself,
iti,
iti,
thus,
thus,
di,
di,
conscious,
conscious,
sva,
swa,
dogs,
dogs,
shrigala,
shrigala,
jackals,
jackals,
bakshi,
bakshye,
in the matter of eating.
in the matter of eating.
So translation. But anyone who is specifically favored by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, due to unalloyed surrender unto the service of the Lord, can overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion, and can understand the Lord. But those who are attached to this body, which is meant to be eaten at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The unalloyed devotees of the Lord know the glories of the Lord in the sense that they can understand how great the Lord is and how great is his expansion of diverse energy. Those who are attached to the perishable body can hardly enter into the realm of the science of Godhead. The whole materialistic world, based on the conception of the material body as the self, is ignorant of the science of God. The materialist is always busy working for the welfare of the material body, not only his own, but all those of his children, kinsmen, community men, countrymen, etc. The materialists have many branches of philanthropic and altruistic activities from a political, national and international angle of vision. But none of the field work can go beyond the jurisdiction of the misconception of identifying the material body with the spirit soul. Unless, therefore, one is saved from the wrong conception of the body and the soul, there is no knowledge of Godhead. And unless there is knowledge of God, all advancement of material civilization, however dazzling, should be considered a failure. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanjana Korangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prajarini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadesha Tarini. So I was inspired when I heard this is the verse we're going to read today. Actually, I got inspired when I read the verse, because only hearing the number I had no idea what verse it is. So, like a few things stood out for me in this verse and purport. And I just want to speak about a few of these points. And then I like to hear from you too. So what stood out for me is there's this attachment to the body. And it seems like we're as souls, we're attached anyway. We're attached either to the body or to Krishna. And attached to the body, it's like we're identifying with our thoughts and feelings and all our looking good strategies and masks and images, and it's like the level where we want to control, or we like to think that we're in control. And as Prabhupada says in his purport to the Mahamantra, like the more we try to control material nature, the more we get entangled in her. And when we start to realize that we're entangled, that we cannot control, we do all kinds of gymnastics. Like we even move to illusion of transcendence, like pretending we're beyond all this or not entangled at all. And what I get from studying this verse and purport and further research I did, like we're not able, it's like a fact, that we're not able to transcend the laws of nature or even control the laws of nature. Because the laws of nature, the illusion, Maya, here it's called like the insurmountable ocean of illusion. It's Krishna's potency, like it's Krishna's energy, so it's super potent. There's nothing more potent than Krishna's energy. So we're stuck in his energy, in his external energy, and it's impossible for us to break out. It's impossible for us to break free from Krishna. So either we're stuck in his external potency, external energy, or internal. And for me that seems like we can choose the quality of our relationship with God. Like we can, once we understand that he has different energies, that there is an external energy and internal energy, we can learn or start to see where our choice is, and we can place our choice. Do we want a relationship to his external energy, which is material nature, which is very rough and tough, it's very tight, it's very it's very it's very rough. Or we can choose the quality, or endeavor to develop a relationship with his internal potency, which is loving and soft, warm, free, and similarly powerful. And I in the calendar of the Zurich ISKCON temple, they have Durga Puja on the calendar for today, and so I thought that's interesting. And I did a little research about Durga, because Durga she's like the goddess of material nature. And what I found is I researched what Prabhupada says about Durga, and Durga Puja is done in many places in India, and apparently in the temple in Zurich also, to appease Durga. So and it seems like that's something that works. We can get the favor of Durga, and she puts us in a nicer place. But the thing is, like Durga is also the meaning of a meaning of Durga is also that a fortress, like a prison. So Durga, Prabhupada compares her to Durga as the superintendent of the prison, so of the prison of the material world. So a prisoner, he can please Durga, and he can get maybe like a better place and a more luxury in the prison, or a little more freedom to do other things than just sit and wait until time's over. Yet the prisoner remains inside the prison, and the idea is to get out of the prison. And Prabhupada describes also that the material world is Durga Shakti, and so the goddess of this energy, the goddess of this energy is Durga, and she's a devotee of the Lord. And he describes that she acts like the shadow hand of Krishna. So pleasing Durga seems to work to get a little relief from being in a prison, but behind Durga is Krishna, so it makes more sense to please Krishna, because whatever she does, it's directed by Krishna. And I was contemplating on this Durga as a person, and I realized that, like, to me, Durga seems like, often I think my relationship with Durga is I see her as an enemy, and I got some understanding this morning that she's not an enemy. She's not my enemy. She's not the enemy of those who turn towards God. She's not the enemy of anyone. But like, when we start to turn towards Krishna, we no longer get stung by Durga's trident. And still, like Durga, she has her duty. She has her she has a clear duty to protect the prisoners, and to also protect the outside world from the prisoners. And so she keeps to those laws. And thinking about that, I remembered a book I read as a young woman about Nelson Mandela. He was in prison for 30 years, and this book was written by his guard, his personal guard. And there's so much, like, this guard developed so much love and admiration for Nelson Mandela, and he was his servant, and then they became friends. And still, he was not, like, he wouldn't even think of letting Nelson Mandela go free, because it was his duty to make sure Nelson Mandela is in prison and is also protected there. So similarly, like Durga, she's our prison guard, and she's not going to let us out of prison unless, like, Krishna instructs her to do so. And I just thinking about Durga as a person, as a personality, helped me shift from, oh, Durga is scary and she's my enemy, to actually admire the qualities that she has. Like, she's surrendered to Krishna, and she's doing her duty. She keeps she keeps her word. She's very much in integrity. So that was inspiring for me to consider. Yeah, Durga is a person, and what she's a devotee of Krishna, and what can I learn from her? And what was interesting for me was that Prabhupada translates the word Durga, and he translates it as a place that is very difficult to get into. And that's also like a new perspective, because I understood, well, Durga, the prison, it's very difficult to get out of a prison. And Prabhupada translates Durga as a place that is very difficult to get into. And he connects it with, he then describes there are different layers of the universe, 7 layers, and each layer is 10 times thicker than the previous one. There are many universes, and I was trying to take that viewpoint of Srila Prabhupada, like, so if Durga is difficult to get into, it's quite an achievement that we're here. And yeah, looking at or considering that the whole creation is, the majority of the creation is the spiritual world, and where we are, it's just a very tiny cloud, and we're inside this prison. And then in the verse, there's the expression, the insurmountable ocean of illusion. And I was thinking of personal work. When we start personal growth, we start to do some introspection, and we start to see, what's inside of us, what's stopping us, what's blocking us from connecting with the self, with the soul's qualities, and connecting with God. And we discover all the grunges, and if we start to look at our victim stories, we can go deeper and deeper into it. We can look at our survival strategies, and they get more subtle and more difficult to detect. And it's like an endless ocean. It's I was conducting a foundational course here 2 weeks ago, and at the time of grunges, it was like the group was stunned when they started to look inside. Wow, I am full of grunges. And they started to like look at the grunges, and in the sharing it was like, wow, and then I take off this grungy and I see the payoff, and then there's another grungy, and it's like an endless ocean of grunges. And the same with victim story. I have this ongoing victim story about the place where we live, and like the deeper I go into it, the more it comes down to like, I'm a victim of the landlord, I'm a victim of the place, I'm a victim of the animals that invade our home, I'm a victim of my illness, my fear of death, disturbance from my mind, and it all comes down to I'm a victim of the material context, I'm a victim of Durga. And I can go to like an accountable place, and I can also use my communication skills and all this. I can create more clarity. And at the same time, sometimes I feel like I'm climbing a mountain and I'm not really getting free. So it's easy to go to illusion of transcendence, that's not so painful, than to do the real work. And Brahma says here that by surrendering to God, we can cross over that ocean of illusion. And Krishna confirms that many times in the Bhagavad Gita. And here in the purport, Prabhupada says, like, attached to the body, we can do a lot of good things. We can do really good things. Like, we can work for the welfare of ourselves, for our welfare of our family, our nation, the world, the planet, animals. Yet without surrendering to God, without Krishna in the center, we have the famous string of zeros. And it's like a personal example here. the string of zeros, I'm invited to go and speak about intrinsic learning at a campus tomorrow morning, and it's a campus that a few people from actually economy, from the economy section, they started a new teacher training, and the teacher training is they're training teachers to support children to live their potential. And in intrinsic learning, like looking at helping the children learn what they feel attracted to, like meeting the children where they're at and giving them what they need in order to grow. And it's a very inspiring project, and it's also I feel inspired by the project. I feel inspired by the philosophy they have to some extent, because they somehow understand, like, okay, so we're here, like here in Switzerland specifically, we're materially so well off. We're so fortunate here, and still people are unhappy, and there are a lot of problems, and no one knows how to solve these problems, and so they picked that up and said, okay, so we need a solution. Matter is not going to make us happy. So let's look at where do we find happiness? Where do we find fulfillment? And so that's what they're searching for. And at the same time, they created like a I don't know, it's like a circle which keeps them in the same box, because their philosophy is let's help kids connect with creativity so they can find solutions for the problems of our economy, so that the economy can continue to grow and we can have even more material enjoyment. And so it's painful for me, because like there's the one aspect which I really agree with. Yes, let's help kids connect with creativity, with self, with empathy. Empathy is also a big issue, something they really want to focus on, developing empathy, but they don't take it out of the box. It's just like connect with the qualities in order to have more material fulfillment, and it doesn't make sense. So what Krishna and what Prabhupada presents here is the way out is surrender to God, like getting God's attention, getting favored by God. And there's a lot of guidance also how we can do that. And we get a lot of examples, like we can look at great personalities, saints, acharyas, and we can look at how do they live their lives, how do they move inside of this prison. And dear Govinda, he pointed out to me that actually in our reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita, in this chapter, this Srimad Bhagavatam verse is mentioned, like Chaitanya cites the verse. So I went back to look at it, and learned a lot from that, just reading that example, because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was an impersonal philosopher. He was sure that like the ultimate goal is merging with the God's love, the light, like that we're not, that God is, there is no person God, and we're not personal ultimately. And somehow or other he met Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya, and he took care of him. And they got into a relationship and into a conversation. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came to understand that Chaitanya is Lord Krishna. And then he, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, actually Lord Chaitanya went to the Jagannath temple, and took some prasadam home and gave it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and then in that meeting when Sarvabhauma he honored prasadam Sri Chaitanya, he quoted this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So what I got from this example is like by taking care of Krishna, we get his mercy, we get understanding of who he is and how to relate to him, and perhaps it's a detail, but I also noticed that in this account of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Sri Chaitanya, when he brought the prasadam of Lord Jagannath, Sarvabhauma, he'd just gotten up and he hadn't taken a shower or washed his mouth or anything, and he took the prasadam and for me that's an example of not being like attached to any external behavior rules, and just like having this spontaneous affection for Krishna. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita the translation is slightly different. And Prabhupada gives some examples in his purport how Krishna informs us in Bhagavad Gita how we can surrender to him and what is the benefit of surrendering. He gives a lot of information to help us trust that it's the best thing to surrender to him. Like verse 1866, that we abandon all varieties of religion and surrender, and that Krishna, he will deliver us from sinful reaction, and there's no need to fear. So he will deliver us, he will protect us from Durga's he will protect us from Durga's trident. And it's like from what I understand here, there's like these two things. One is like getting out of the bodily conception, and Krishna he helps Arjuna get out of this bodily conception at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna didn't want to fight when he saw the other army and who was in the army. He didn't want to fight, and then Krishna reminded him that he is not this body, that he is a spirit soul. So Krishna helped Arjuna get out of the bodily conception, and that was like it was good for me to hear. Because it says like, so it's not possible to get out of this ocean of illusion, to cross over this ocean. And Krishna helps us. So he helps us understand we're not the body, so that we can turn to surrender. So it seems like there's these two ingredients, or I don't know, two tracks. One is to get out of this bodily conception, and the other one is to surrender to Krishna. And we can do both. Like we can practice understanding how we are not the body, and at the same time we can try to please Krishna by serving him with love and devotion. And also how to do that, we get a lot of guidance from Bhagavad Gita and from examples of personalities described in Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. And some examples like remembering Krishna. That's something Krishna mentions so many times in Bhagavad Gita. Like, think of me, remember me. Speaking about Krishna, what we're doing here. Making friendship with Krishna, serving him. In essence, like make our lives a prayer, like make our life an offering to Krishna, live our life in a way that Krishna is pleased. And how to become specifically favored by the Supreme Lord. I looked up in Bhagavad Gita, and in chapter 12 there are a lot of verses, and I was very eager to read those verses, and I will read a few to you. Chapter 12, 13, 14. One who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress, who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me, he is very dear to me. So I felt crushed when I read this. I thought, oh, yeah, somewhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says how we can get dear to him. So I was eager to read, and I felt crushed, and I continued to read, and like, he for whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anxiety, who is steady in happiness and distress, is very dear to me. It's like, free from anxiety, steady in happiness and distress. Or 16, a devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and who does not strive for some result, is very dear to me. So I continued reading, and I realized like it's not very easy for me to fulfill this I don't know the word in English, to fulfill this, and they're not expectations. Yeah, but to fulfill this. Requirements, yes, if these are the requirements to become dear to Krishna, very dear to Krishna, it's quite tough. And so I continued to search, because I thought it's not possible, that it's impossible. So I found another verse, which is in chapter 18, and it's verse 68, which I will also read to you. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So when I read this, I felt very moved. I feel very moved right now, and I understood how fortunate it is that I get to speak to you about this Srimad Bhagavatam, even if I don't understand, and I get so many new questions, and I a lot of realization how little I know and how entangled I am, and still I'm trying to explain what I read from Prabhupada, and so I felt some hope reading this verse. And I remembered that, as I said, doing this research, I thought, wow, it's so complex, this illusion, the material energy, the internal energy, and it's very, very complex, and my mind, and I guess the mind of many, like the Kali Yuga mind, doesn't have the ability to really understand and grasp this and get clarity and keep clear. And I remembered that Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya, what he teaches us is that the holy name of God, the holy name of Krishna, that's how Krishna is with us in this time, and that the holy name is like the summary of everything. It's like the summary of all the prayers, the summary of all the personal work. It's the shortcut. It's a shortcut to cross over the ocean of illusion, to surrender, to serve, to please, to receive Krishna's favor, to receive shelter, to be protected from sins. And I was speaking with a friend the other day about the holy name, because we were speaking about the challenges we meet in our lives, and he said, I just come back to this conclusion, like the holy name, that's the solution. And we spoke about the holy name and the golden age, what is the meaning of this, and he was sharing that he's met so many spiritualists, people like surrendering to God or surrendering to Krishna, and they do such a lot of nonsense in their lives, and then they sing the most beautiful kirtan, and like in this conversation with him, I got some understanding that I can be in a very miserable place and I can sing kirtan, and it's like the misery is gone. It feels like the illusion is gone, and then I can stop the kirtan and all the misery is back. And so perhaps that is the meaning of the golden age, that it's very easy to connect with Krishna, and it's very hard to stay there, to keep the connection. And it's not like, and it's very hard to keep the connection. At the same time, it's like, it's not like the special mercy is we don't need to be pure in our mind, body, intelligence. It's not to sing the holy names of God. Like anyone can do that, and we can do that anytime. Yes, that's what I have to share with you. I'm eager, interested to hear your insights or questions or whatever.
Hare Krishna. I really appreciate your description of the fortress of Durga. I had heard this description before, but I never really connected with it. Still, I'm still pretty resistant to it. Like, no, I'm not resistant, of course not. But something about the way that you presented it was like so simple, so sensical, that I was able to connect with it more than I had before, and so I'm really appreciating that. And also what you ended with right now, also maybe that's the meaning of the golden age, that it's so easy to connect, and I can identify with that sometimes, and also that it can be hard to stay there, and I also very much connect with this. So I really appreciate both of those two things. They really spoke to me.
Thank you, Eze, for sharing.
Hi Krishna, Anandini. Thank you for class. It was very enlightening, enlivening, eye-opener like that. And I was thinking of what you were sharing at the beginning about the Gramjis and victim of the material energy. And I was thinking, okay, Srila Prabhupada does say that we are all victimized by the material energy. So we are victimized, and at the same time, she's a friend. And in order to really be free while being victimized is the freedom is to not feel like a victim and be fully responsible. So I was thinking, wow, that's an interesting thing to meditate on, to really see, like, because if someone victimizes us, we don't need necessarily to go into a victim, feeling like a victim, but we may stop the victimization. We say, well, I don't want to be with you, I don't want to be around you anymore. But in that situation, we are victimized by the material energy, and the only way to not feel like a victim is to serve Krishna. But the victimization is going to go on anyway. We don't have the choice to stop the victimization. So I was thinking of that.
Yeah, thank you. It's like we got a sentence in this prison house, and we can come to the point of realizing, like, oh, I got myself into here and taking full responsibility, and still there is this sentence of I don't know how many years, and we can continue to sit in this prison and not feel like a prisoner.
Like Nelson Mandela.
Sorry?
Like you gave the example of Nelson Mandela, and
yes.
I that while he was in prison, he didn't feel like in prison. He just felt okay. He took advantage of the situation to go deeper within himself.
Thank you for sharing.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you very much.
Gotendra, I'm not hearing you well. Is it just me?
Can anybody hear me?
It's also very quiet for us here.
Oh, not sure what to do.
Okay, I'll just put up the volume.
Just speak up a bit. We're hearing you more or less.
Okay. Thank you. It was a really nice class, and I have to say I developed a very sweet feeling of dependence on the Lord's mercy over the course of this class. I'm really appreciating that. It feels kind of wonderfully relieving, like a burden has been lifted. And a couple of the thoughts that came up as I was listening was, I remember there was a song that the Murari band had sung, that you can't have the kingdom of God without God. And I started remembering that idea. You can't have the kingdom of God without God. And then I started thinking about Hiranyakashipu and his qualification in some sense. Here's somebody that was so powerful in terms of their personal qualification that the demigods were distressed by this person's power. He got the personal audience of Lord Brahma. And that's a very powerful person. And yet all of his plans, all of his intelligence to try to have the kingdom of God without God, to have the eternality of the soul, was all very futile without actually receiving the mercy of God, without receiving the mercy of God. My thoughts led to that, and the last thing is probably everybody's seen the movie, but when you mentioned Chaitanya and Sarvabhauma, if anybody by chance has not seen Ishale Mahaprabhu, the old 1959 black and white, it's really sweet, so please see it if you haven't.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to hear like you got some realization about Krishna's mercy. And as you were sharing about Hiranyakashipu, I was thinking, what a waste of time, what a waste of energy. Like what he invested to create all this, and just for nothing. And I'm curious to see the film. I haven't seen the film. Thank you. Someone wrote a comment. Rama. Thank you, Anandini, for the class. I relate to what you mentioned about Kirtan. I personally feel that when I choose to participate in Kirtan, my problems seem to be insignificant and more light. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Rama.
Hare Krishna, I appreciated your point. But yeah, this is a verse from the Bhagavatam about how we're not the body is going to be eaten by dogs or jackals. It can be a very sobering thought, a very liberating thought. So attached to this body and what's happening to it. It's so important, but going to be eaten by worms or something like that. So that's a very sobering thought. And then I like how you get that there's a natural interplay that is part of our process to introspect and look at and understand. Oh yes, I'm not the body. And there's different now the car analogy. They're looking at a photo 145, the computer analogy. Oh, but would often do okay. I would often do this whole idea of I would say we don't say I finger, I head. No, my head, my finger. So who's the owner? So there's the owner and there's the leg, my leg. So that's part of our process to realize we're not the body. And then that brings us to, okay, so I'm this non-material entity and the nature of the soul is to serve God. And simultaneously, so realizing we're not the body brings us to God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. And simultaneously, from wherever we're at in understanding or not realizing we're not the body, whatever our attachments, serve Krishna, do kirtan, chant japa, read Bhagavatam, and that's the goal in itself. And that brings us to further realization that we're not the body, that we are spirit, soul. So by engaging in devotional service, we realize we're not the body. And part of devotional service is to do an intellectual analysis, to introspection, to realize who we're not and who we are. Also, in related to the Durga prison house victim consciousness, the victimization story. Yeah, there's a Back to Godhead from like 1956, an old Back to Godhead from like many years before Prabhupada came to the United States. And Prabhupada's doing an analysis of, it might even be from the 1940s. He's doing an analysis of theosophy. I guess theosophy was influential in India at that time. Madame Blavatsky and theosophy and things like that. And Prabhupada analyzes their philosophy and he says, yeah, the theosophists, they say, and he quotes, like, we will not rest peacefully until there is no longer oppression of the weak by the strong. We will shed tears as long as there is oppression by the strong of the weak, and things like that. So Prabhupada says that our approach as Vaishnavas, our approach is different. Our approach is to make everyone so strong that they are not susceptible to be oppressed. So that struck me as very powerfully, because the oppression is because I'm attached to some sense gratification. I'm attached to this body. I'm attached to illusion, and then I'm setting myself up for you or this group to exploit me, and I'll exploit you based on that weakness of character, that weakness of the soul being covered. And so Prabhupada's saying is that, you gave the Nelson Mandela example, that if someone's so strong in being self-satisfied that we could be absorbed in kirtan everywhere, we were absorbed in the satisfaction, the bliss, the peace, the fulfillment of the soul wherever we go by remembering Krishna, and nothing can tempt me because I have no greed. I have no lust. I have no envy. There's in the video or the movie biography of Prabhupada, there's Your Ever Well-Wisher. They do one interview with some Indian billionaire, some Indian, a huge business magnate, and they're interviewing him, and he had a lot of association with Prabhupada, maybe on different land deals, and I think he became a follower. I don't know if he became an officially initiated disciple, but anyhow, so he was saying, like, so he met this Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he said, well, you know, this billionaire or magnate said, yeah, he's a businessman. So actually, when you meet someone, you try to find their weak point, and then you can exploit it. I mean, that's what you do. And he goes, and for months and years, I kept associating with this person, and I couldn't find an ounce of greed. I couldn't find any lust. I couldn't find any self-centeredness. I couldn't find any insecurities. I couldn't find any envy or like that. And then he realized, and then so after years, I had to realize this is truly a saintly person. There was nothing to exploit. There was no way to victimize this person because there was no material illusion, no material desire. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I'm inspired by this too, that Prabhupada's mission is to make everyone strong so they cannot be victimized. I like that.
Yeah, and then even if there's externally what might be perceived as mistreatment, victimization, that the devotional soul is simply enthusiastic to respond to such a circumstance, even if it's an imprisonment circumstances, respond with kirtan, respond with deeper inspiration to realize the futility of happiness in the material world, deeper inspiration to remember and serve Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I see myself. I was appreciating your metaphor, with the prison. I was just popular one in jail. I have some experience in that material realm, in actual prison jail, so that brings up that. And can really go deep into that analogy. It's very real for me. In an experience, there's a prison culture, jail culture. People people can really come to appreciate being in jail and prison. And there's some shelter there. There's some safety, comfort. It's actually possible to find it there. Some people find it in jail, so it's very real. And then when you were sharing about Durga. So to try to please Durga or to appease Durga, it's like, well, that can work. You can get like a job where you can go out of your cell and go do a job instead of being in a cell all the time. Maybe get work release where you can go out for a little bit and so you can get some little advancements. But really, it's better to ask to have your lawyer or something go to the governor, or the judge, the president, to ask for pardon or to ask for release, to go through the process of going to a higher authority. So, using your lawyer to talk to the judge, and then the judge, that has more authority. There's like a process to do that, to get to the one. And there's like a parampara, there's a link there to get to the one who has more authority, the judge or the president or the governor or whatever. And it's not necessarily through the warden. It's not through the prison guard. The prison guard is not going to help you get out of prison. Prison guard can arrange a better situation. And So I was appreciating that, like how much time do we spend, like you're sharing on the politics is all that, trying to manage Durga, like this political solution is just how do we arrange a different arrangement so that we can enjoy in prison better. And how much time do we spend doing that? It's like arguing with the obstacles, like in the Savatov process, everybody, so the clear intention, obstacles process, like how much time do we spend arguing with the obstacles or trying to manage the obstacles rather than like the clear intention of like getting out and speaking to the one in charge, finding a way to get directly to the one in charge to actually get out of the situation. And so yeah, that was really alive for me to go above the word. I want to put something out there just to see, this is some speculation, but see what you think, because I was thinking, Durga is feminine, it's a woman. It's very hard to satisfy a woman. But Krishna is the supreme person, supreme man. Much easier to satisfy a man. Just simple love and devotion, loyal. So I wanted to put that out there. Durga is very hard to satisfy.
Thank you for your sharing. I feel moved by this, asking for pardon to those who really have like the power to set us free. I feel moved by that, and I'll contemplate what you said. I know it's hard to please myself, so I think I can agree that it's hard to please a woman. I don't know. So, interesting thought. I don't have much to say about it. Anything else? So I'll read the verse again. But anyone who is specifically favored by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, due to unalloyed surrender unto the service of the Lord, can overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion and can understand the Lord. But those who are attached to this body, which is meant to be eaten at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so. Thank you. I appreciated very much being with you, being in your energy and atmosphere. I'm sad to leave. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anandini. Thank you. Haribol.